Life does not always go as planned. You may be on plan B, C, D, E, F, or G, and that's okay. Life can be beautiful and messy. It doesn't have to be perfect. After crying on my kitchen floor for nearly 2 years when my first husband left, I found my plan B and a depth of resilience I didn't even know I had. I'm Beth Montpas, life coach. Have you ever needed to really reinvent yourself? I redesigned my life by allowing my feelings, forgiving and accepting myself in the new reality, really surrendering. Plus, connecting with others. We don't have to do it alone. Reframing our negative thoughts and emotions, and by not looking too far down the road. Now, I have an incurable joy and zest for life. My favorite hashtag is, what if it's better? If you're looking for motivation and inspiration with other resilient, fun, successful midlife women, keep listening to the Pain to Power podcast. You'll meet amazing women who dropped being the victim and found victory. Listen in to create a spark in you to navigate this wild ride called life that comes with living full out.
Hello, my friends. I have a treat for you. It is Jack Perez. Jack is a pro-aging champion. She promotes normalizing aging for women through curated content and women-driven brands. With over 60 cool category thought leaders and 40 women-driven brands, Kuel Life offers women an opportunity to share, learn, shop, and play with our second act sisters. We're going to talk about that today. So subscribe to Kuel Life's Sunday newsletter to get all the hot tips and topics delivered to your inbox, and we'll give you that link. Jack has earned an MBA from the University of Chicago, and you carry, I love this, a hard-nosed business understanding to the entrepreneurial world. I want to ask you about that hard-nosed piece. Jack's passions include spending time with her son, traveling to exotic, off the beaten path places such as Cuba, Jordan, Zambia, Bolivia, Zanzibar. Like, I can barely pronounce these, friends. And an endorphin junkie. What a great way to describe yourself, Jack. You're an avid jump roper, Peloton fanatic, and a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. Wow. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you, Beth. I guess sound pretty cool with the way you describe me.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for being here and sharing out. My experience of you is such a powerhouse in every way that I want to showcase that. And really, before we get to the power piece, this podcast is about from your pain to your power. So before we get to talk about second second act sisters and all the things,
I think I liked what you said first. Second ask.
what wasn't going well about your life? Like, where was the pain? What led to this movement?
Well, Beth, I love that you asked that question. And I love that your podcast focuses on that, on the beginning, the pain, because I would dare to say that this is what most of us do, right? Most of us, when we create something, it's usually because we were so frustrated with what was going on for ourselves that we were looking for some sort of hack, some sort of way to circumnavigate whatever it is that was hurting us or causing us pain or derailing our lives. And, I'm not any different than most of probably the women you've talked to and probably most entrepreneurs out there. My pain came from this ordinary change of life, which happens to every other human and just called menopause, right? It's just every other human goes through this transition. It is a normal progression of life, is particularly for women, but it could also come. Oh my goodness. I was reading today. I was on a Clubhouse room today and we were talking about medical misogyny. And I was reading today the list of potential symptoms that can come at us through this physiological change. And the list is long, ladies, long and varied and uncomfortable. And some of the things on the list literally can cost us our jobs, can cost us our relationships. And they don't need to, because they're just symptoms of a hormonal imbalance that can and should be addressed in some way, shape, or form. That was my pain, Beth. You name it, I had it. I looked like a Shar-Pei puppy. You could pick me up on my back fat. I had gained 30 pounds and it was all in the middle, which is not that atypical, right? I had anxiety for the first time in my life. I would wake up not wanting to get out of bed. You know me well enough to know that I'm a pretty positive, zippy person. For me to be afraid to get out of my bed in the morning, that was just, I was like, what is wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I had vertigo. Yeah, that's a really, excuse my French, crappy version of Jacqueline. Very crappy. I wasn't a good partner. I wasn't a good mom. I wasn't a good friend. I wasn't a good person to myself. I had to do something different because I was, I think, 52 or 53 at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, potentially another 30, 40 years, maybe even 50, who knows, with medical technology and advancements. Am I going to spend that many years miserable and unwell?
So, was there a moment that you decided this? I mean, because I think all those things that you listed, some of the listeners and I can so relate to, that middle, additional weight, the anxiety, some different parts and pieces to this. But what can you describe a time that it was like the last straw? Like, okay, I now get to address this. Is there a time, or was it just like over time it became clear we got to handle this?
Yes, I wish I could tell you that there was one pivotal moment, some aha realization that I had. But the reality is that because the symptoms were so varied and weird, I
And
mean, weird.
subtle.
All of a sudden, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, right? All of a sudden I had vertigo that came out of nowhere. I didn't have an aha moment because I was trying to solve these incongruencies in my body real time, and I was working on doing it holistically at first. You name it, I tried it. Turmeric. I'm thinking back now, oh my God, this was so long ago. You name it, I literally tried it. Supplements, exercise in the morning, change my exercise to the evening, change my sleep routine, stop drinking, drink some more. I did everything. And so it wasn't everything and anything that I thought could help. And each time, you have to give these things a little bit of wiggle room to see if they're going to work, right? If you start a supplement, you can't expect that turmeric is going to take your inflammation away day two, right? So given all the things that I tried and all the amounts of time that I had to allow to see if it would work, it just sort of happened over iteration by iteration, right? Iteration by iteration. Okay, this didn't work. What's next on the list? Okay, this didn't work. What's next on the list? And that's how I ended up getting to a solution for myself. But it was through those iterations, Beth, it was through that pain of not being able to find a solution for myself, completely selfish. Okay, this was not altruistic, but it was through that process that all of a sudden it hit me. I can't be the only one. I can't be the only woman out here who is struggling and coming up empty handed time and time and time again. How can I be part of the solution? How can I help change the paradigm that we're currently living in? What can I do so that a different woman, another woman might be able to get to their answer, her answer, just a little quicker? I can't solve, any one woman's entire problem, but by giving them resources and information and women from all over the world who talk and address these issues. And menopause is one of them, but oh, Beth, this is an incredible time in life. But we've talked about this, you and I, in various and sundry locations. This is a pretty tumultuous time of life. There are a lot of things that change. I mean, the physiology changes, but our family structure changes. If you had a family, chances are they're leaving home. If your parents are still alive, chances are they're aging and you're involved in their caretakings in some way, shape, or form. If you still have a teen at home, you might be finding that your teen stole your car at 3 a.m. in the morning and then wake up to a phone call from the facility that houses your mom that she broke a hip. Where in the world are we ever in this situation where so much is coming at us at one time? If you've been married, okay, you've been married what, 20, 30, 40 years? Wow. How do you handle a long term relationship? How do you reinvigorate a relationship that potentially is suffering after the children left home? Oh, what if you're one of the gajillion women who are issuing out divorces? The gray divorce is a real thing. Okay, so now what do? You find yourself back in the dating pool with a dry vagina. You date with a dry vagina. It's talking about that.
Right. Nobody's talking about that.
These are the things that we talk about on Kuel Life. These are the resources that we bring together into one digital platform where women from wherever you are and whenever you want, you can access that information. That's what I decided to do with the pain, Beth.
Make it constructive,
Yeah.
take action. That's what I hear. And being committed out of your mind to elevate all of us with these diverse resources. So I'm understanding you clearly. It isn't today that you're going to say, this is how I pulled myself out of, you know, negative parts of menopause. It is what your solution is empowering yourself and women with resources, because we're all different. Mine's going to be a different experience than yours. So by talking about dry vaginas and talking about fashion at this age, I mean, talk about two different topics, and relationships and how to reinvent ourselves with business. What you're
Yeah.
saying is there's not just one way, through sharing resources that we can be supported.
Absolutely. And the thing with menopause, I really wish I could tell you and your audience, if you do these three things, I promise you, menopause will be just fine.
Agree.
You won't even notice it happened. And I can't tell you that because sadly, menopause is as unique as a flippin' snowflake. So my menopausal experience and what works for me, or what ended up working for me, is not necessarily the universal answer. But being committed to searching out and looking for the thought leaders and the experts from around the world that are helping women that are currently in the arena, Beth. They're in the arena helping a lot of these women are coaches. And so they've done a lot of deep dives and have a lot of expertise in whatever their niche is. And they're bringing those hacks, that advice, those tips generously to the community and saying, okay, listen, you got this problem. Here's a potential solution, a potential way of looking at it. But then I have another woman who's addressing the same issue and has a completely different viewfinder. There's another way of looking at it. And so I want to arm us. We've been in the dark for so long. From our health, they didn't start researching or including us in clinical trials until the 1990s. So we're really in the dark. We're really in the dark about our physiology. We're really in the dark about our what's okay and not okay inside relationships and in reinvention. Is it okay to leave corporate America? I could go on and on and on. But what I don't want to do is I don't want your audience to think, oh my God, this is awful. If I'm not there, I don't want to get there. And, I'm here and I didn't think it was that bad, but now I think it's worse. No, 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 no. I believe this is the best, absolutely, hands down, the best time of life ever. Despite all that stuff I just talked about, this doesn't get any better than this, I think. I think it just keeps getting better, actually.
Right. Well, and I love that you're opening up the conversation raw, meaning we can talk about that there's some things that aren't fantastic about it, and let's celebrate it and what are the good things and open up the conversation. Why would you say there is so much shame and quietness and handling this on our own, kind of gutting through stuff? Where does that come from? Is it just we're not, why are we being so quiet about this?
Well, I have a theory. You want to hear my theory?
Yes.
It's not scientifically, it's not statistical. I mean, I haven't done a study, but this is my theory. My theory is that we're conditioned from way back when. I don't know when you started menstruating, but I started at 11 and a half, before seventh grade, the summer after sixth grade. I had some really cruddy periods. I didn't feel well. I had horrible cramps. It was bad. It was bad. 28 days, ladies. Every 28 days, I felt really awful. Guess what I had to do? Still had to go to school, still had to take those tests,
Buck up.
still had to go do my babysitting gig, still had to fast forward, still had to go to class in college, still had to go to that interview, still had to go to the meeting at Hewlett Packard, still. I think that we are conditioned to buck up and keep going and suck it up, because if not, what were we going to do every 28 days? And so we learned from really early on that not to complain and to put up with a lot of discomfort and a lot of pain and not necessarily ask for help or solutions. So why would we be any different now?
I love it.
That's my theory.
Yeah, it's a beautiful theory. I recently was having some back pain, and I went to my massage therapist, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I think because I've gained weight, now my back hurts. Maybe I even need spine surgery." I mean, I was like catastrophizing it. And she said to me, "It's about your breathing, your shallow breathing. And what if you did some diaphragm breathing?" And I share that story because she changed my life, but I had to ask for support. I didn't silently suffer through that. I was like, what is happening? I need some support here. And I think women aren't conditioned to raise their hand. We sort of like, take Tylenol, drink wine. I don't know, just live with it. Basically, our time isn't up. There's too many other catastrophes happening in life to even, that our number gets called, that we get to take care of ourselves. So I love this. Ask for support.
Yes. And that's the whole premise of why I built Kuel Life and the whole share, learn, and play with Second Act Sisters, because we also have a really good time sharing this information with each other and learning from each other and being supportive. We laugh at ourselves. I think it's not for sissies. Aging is not for sissies. It really isn't.
So, one of the things I hear is you are not a victim to menopause. And so many women are. So, what advice do you have for them aside from this whole banter? We have a lot of fun doing it. Let's, asking for support. What do you say when people are very committed to their misery? Because I feel a lot of people are like, they just like, that's what that's what the conversation is that everything's bad. So how would you invite them into a new way of viewing this?
Well, I would ask them what they're getting from the negativity, because I'll tell you, whether we catastrophize or we're Pollyannas, we're deriving something from it. We're getting something from it. And, maybe people who catastrophize are worried about, well, what if I did find a solution? Then I'd have to, then I might have to actually be brave and do something. I don't know, but I'm not that, I don't do that. Like I don't function that way. And so when I find individuals who are stuck in the woe is me, I can't do anything, the victim mindset, to me, that isn't just because of menopause. I mean, that's probably
All of
the
life.
way they approach, all of life. That's a whole other conversation, right? I mean, how do you help someone step out of victim mode? Because for me, I can't allow myself to go into victim mode almost to an extreme, because for me, if I allow myself to say I'm a victim of something, then I have completely relinquished all of the control and the power that I have to get myself out of that situation. And that, when I just said that, in my body, I feel, well, I think it's called learned helplessness, right? I mean, eventually, like, people just stop helping themselves. That is such an unacceptable feel in my gut right now. And so I am almost to the extreme that even when things really I really didn't have control.
Right.
I look for a small sliver, a piece that I could exert control over that brings back the power to me. And I believe that having the power over your own feelings and how you show up in the world, to me, that's part and parcel of who I am. I mean, that is part and parcel of who I am.
Amen. And that's why people follow you, love you, want to get on your wheel. Like they're on you. And I know you're active in Clubhouse so people can connect with you there, and
Yep.
Instagram and all the places. The Sunday newsletter is a beautiful gift that just lands in my email box, and I get to go see, okay, what are these conversations, and so I don't feel alone in my misery about things. So it's a gift that you're giving to the world, Jack. Thank
Well, not just me. I happen to be, the ringleader, I guess, the mistress of ceremonies. But if you get that newsletter, ladies, it is chock full of expert advice from the globe, from women who are in the trenches, like I said, in the arena, doing the work and helping other women. So yes, Beth, thank you for the compliment. But honestly, I tell people, yes, I run Kuel Life. It was my idea. I put it together, but it belongs to all of us. Really, really does, because it wouldn't exist without all of these women. It just wouldn't exist. I don't have the expertise on all these subjects. I couldn't provide this value to the community on my own. I just couldn't.
Well, and it keeps us out of that isolation and loneliness. And I know you think, you have found that those are really deadly things where we go inward and we think we're the only one. That is fascinating. And thank you for shining a light on that. I'm
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, your point to loneliness, it turns out that loneliness and isolation is a leading indicator of a shortened lifespan and an unhealthy lifespan. More so, believe it or not, more so than BMI. You were talking a little bit earlier about some of the gain weight that we gain, and even more so than smoking a flippin' pack of cigarettes a day. So think about that. Think about that, that letting yourself get isolated and letting yourself get lonely. And I say letting yourself because once again, I can't accept being a victim of that. I need to be able to control that. And I highly encourage all of your listeners to hear that. You can control that. You don't have to be lonely. You don't have to be isolated. I promise there are women out there hungry for community, hungry to share, hungry to learn from you. You don't have to do this alone. None of us have to do this alone.
You often have been known to say, go before you're ready. What does
Yes.
that mean?
Oh, holy cow. I do everything before I'm ready. I'm the girl who jumps in the pool and halfway in the dive, I'm like, shoot, I should have asked how deep the water is. I hate that. Yeah, I think a lot of us, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, I don't know, you can name all the isms you want, but a lot of us suffer from analysis paralysis. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. I'm not sure where this conditioning comes from, ladies, but I know so many of us, and I'm not saying it does or doesn't happen to men, but if it does, they haven't shared it with me. But I can't even begin to tell you how many things I started over the last 5 years at Kuel Life that were epic fails. Epic. Embarrassing, actually. Downright embarrassing. Or they cost me money, or they didn't make me any money, or worse, they cost me money and didn't make me any money. You know what? I just stopped doing them. I pivoted. I did something else. You can re-decide. That's the beauty about decision making. You make a decision, you pull the trigger, you put it out in the universe, and then you take what the universe, whatever the response is, if that's not the response you wanted, stop that behavior, change it to something else. But the world is a petri dish. Wait, I mean, it's like a lab. Just throw it out there, see what happens. Because honestly, seriously, nobody cares. Nobody is paying attention to what you do the way you're paying attention to what you do. Nobody cares. I mean, Beth, do you know how many things I've tried over the past 5 years that have failed? You probably can't even name one.
I can't even name one. And what I think about is your boldness, your travels, all the things that are epic.
Right.
I can't think of any failures.
I tried this live Facebook chat thing and I did a whole bunch of them and it just didn't go anywhere. Nobody was into them. Nobody viewed them. And so guess what? I stopped doing them.
Yeah.
I just stopped.
And
I
you
didn't.
didn't tell yourself a story that I suck because that didn't work. It just merely was that didn't work.
That
And
didn't work. I
yeah,
moved on. I moved on.
yeah, you're rarely in beat up, Jack. You're a fast shifter, and I think those are some beautiful lessons because we don't have time for that. In fact,
Oh,
I
when the world's ready to beat you up, why do you have to do it?
absolutely,
There's so many
absolutely,
people out there ready to beat you with the stick. Why do you have to pick up the stick? Don't pick up the stick. Ugh.
yeah.
Don't do
Don't pick up the stick. I like that. That would be a good place to end, but I'm unwilling to ask you this question. So this is the last question I have for you.
okay.
One of the things that I am terrifically fascinated about you is these long-term travel things that you do. Like you aren't just booking a trip to Cabo like the rest of us are. You are going solo to really interesting places. I know this probably just keeps you awake, keeps you just so on your toes. I want to know I want to know more about that. Like
Well, you
thought
said
of
it.
going on vacation by myself. I can't imagine going to dinner or a movie barely by myself. So I'm super fascinated, so much so that I don't even know the question to ask. So speak into that.
Well, what I want to speak, the reason, and I make a distinction, Beth, between vacation and travel. So to me, a vacation is, easy. Everything is kind of handed to you. It's a little more luxurious. You're not worried about language or getting lost or getting sick from eating something. To me, a vacation, and I love vacations because who in their right mind would tell you that they didn't? But to me, that's very different than travel. And I think what you're asking me is why do I travel? And I travel because it keeps me interested and young and nimble and excited and uncomfortable. The more if I get too comfortable, I start to disintegrate. I start to fall apart. I have to keep myself alive and interested and my curiosity piqued, forever curious. I also am an experiential learner. I will learn more from, an hour in front of a local person on the ground in, say, Vietnam or Zambia or wherever, listening to his or her story or conversation. I glean so much more out of that than I would ever glean from a book or watching a documentary. For me, travel and being in the trenches, lost, uncomfortable. I went to Vietnam for a month and it was incredibly taxing. So taxing, Beth, that I came home and I literally went into a deep chemical depression, which I didn't realize I was depressed at the time until I came out of it. But now it totally makes sense. For 5 weeks, I was continuously hit with dopamine, hit after dopamine, adrenaline. Everything was novel, everything was new. And then I came home to everything being ordinary. And my brain didn't know what to do. My brain was like, wait, where's all that stimuli? What happened to all that stimuli? So that was a bit of a rookie move. I need to have a better re-entry plan for the next time because that was a wasted month. So I need to figure out like how do I prevent that chemical imbalance from happening? But yes, travel keeps me alive,
Well, so
you
you
know?
bringing up the whole, we get to keep ourselves uncomfortable, kind of bumping up against ageism and, like keeping yourself young and uncomfortable and nimble. I love all that. And when you described the coming home and said everything felt so ordinary, I realized that is where a lot of us live our whole entire lives. I'm not shaming us into let's get traveling. However, if that's the message you need to hear, listener, get traveling, right?
Whatevering. It might not be traveling. It might be learning the violin. I don't know. You know, getting something. Get something. You are not done because you're 50 or 55 or 60 or 65 or 70. You are not done. You don't have to be done. And I am telling you right now, if you act like you're done, your machine's going to follow suit and it's going to start shutting down. Like if you don't use it, if you don't use it, it's going to be like, okay, I guess I can go now because it's not being taken out and driven. Gotta drive the car. Gotta drive the car. Can't leave the car in the garage.
Use
Eventually
it
it
or
won't
lose it.
start. Yeah.
Use it or lose it. Get going.
Get
That
going.
is
Whatever
it.
it is.
That's got to be the title of this podcast right here. Jack, I adore you, and I want to shout it from the rooftops that you have great resources and are offering them to people. We just get to read it and grab it and take it and join you.
Yes. It's there for the taking, ladies. Help yourselves. And I want to leave your audience with one final thought, if I may, Beth.
Yeah.
My belief is that there is a huge chasm between mini skirts and depends, adult diapers. And that's exactly, ladies, where we get to live this very cool life, whatever that means to you.
Boom, boom. I love it. Thank you for dazzling us today. And I love that. I'm for the mini skirt, please. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Beth.
So grateful you tuned in to another episode of Pain to Power podcast. Each month, I'm committed to bringing you juicy, raw, real life stories and shine a light on the women whose lives are often very messy, and yet they dropped being a victim to their life circumstances and stood in victory in their thoughts and emotions. I love to inspire and motivate women to love their life. If you want to receive more inspiration, come play in my private Facebook group called Best Life Tribe for inspiration on the daily, or join my email list for connections, strategies, and tips. Join at bethmontpas.com. I am a certified coach, trainer, and speaker. I lead inspiring private and small group workshops, resulting in authentic coaching in a vibrant community. I host personal and group retreats as well as virtual gatherings designed to ignite your life and get you back to loving your life. Let's get social. Connect with me on Facebook at Beth Montpas Coach, or Instagram at Beth Montpas, or on LinkedIn at Beth Montpas.